Okay, so this is sorority. You're interested in starting a sorority. What should you realistically be looking at for starting it up? Well, you should be looking at, honestly, 10 gallons to 20 gallon, 20 gallon longs. Keep in mind, height doesn't really play any factor in your success here. As a matter of fact, it can kind of be a dooming factor because it makes it to where you can't actually get a proper ideal balance of females for water. You got to keep in mind with bettas, the footprint, the floor space of your tank is going to actually be what you have to go off of, not your height. You can have a 29 long all you want. You realistically only have like a 20. That's about it. That's how it plays out. And then also the height stresses them out, and they might still do okay, but the difference between them being in that and a shorter tank is pretty large. So in sorority, you want to make sure to just keep in mind that you want to make your fish expel the least amount of energy possible for things that they don't have to, because they are all interacting all the time. So anyways, those are the two tank sizes that I would like to see all of you guys keeping in mind. You can do a 40 gallon breeder, you can, but the numbers are gonna have to be high. I don't really advise that at first. Start smaller. Don't think that you should be jumping out with these big tanks. That's failure. We all do what we do for a reason. And while we might have big ponds, we also have like one beta to half gallon or a gallon, depending on what we're doing and what the situation is, like all of this surrounding stress factors, things. These all come into play here. So, 10 gallons, 20 gallon longs, those are gonna be your friends. Now let's get into the number counts and stuff like that. So in a 10 gallon, reality of it is, and the different sizes there is no like one beta per gallon, one beta per 2 gallons. That doesn't work because it doesn't translate over to their behavioral patterns and what's actually going to happen in there, and especially for longevity. And so what you need to kind of keep in mind is, so like for 10 gallons, right, you're going to want to do 7, and depending on how well balanced they are too, and if you have what I call a false top would be you have no true dominant, you have, girls that aren't very dominant, and then 1 or 2 were forced to become the role that they needed, which would be dominant. And that's what I call a false top. That's what I want to see all you guys building. I never want to see you guys working with any females who are true dominant. I don't sell them. I don't support that. If it's for breeding and it's a dominant female, but she is still breedable and she's not too out of hand, then that's fine. But that is not a situation for sorority at all. So anyways, I want to see you guys do, in a 10 gallon, I want 7. If they are extremely well balanced, you can do 9. That is about your top out there. If you are doing the 20, I want to see you guys doing 14 to 17. That's it. 20 long. I'm talking about a 20 long, not a regular 20. I'm not even going to touch base on things that I don't recommend. So do with that whatever you want. But reason for this is these are the perfect numbers for balance, both short and long run. Something to keep in mind, if you're going bigger, let's just say a 40 gallon, well, you're immediately looking at 35 fish. And the reason is that water and the dimensions is such that your population is going to have to be very high for the big picture. That's another thing that I want to say here. I'm not saying that there isn't flukes on anything you could possibly think of. That's life. You can have, some people only have 2 and they get along, and that's fine. That's a fluke. That's not a big picture thing. I deal with hundreds and hundreds of people all the time. In the big picture, that is what I advise. You don't go and advise someone on something that works for like 2% of the people, 5% of the people. You don't, advise people on what will work on a maybe, ifs, hopes, dreams, water chemistry. Like, you got to keep everything in mind. And so what I teach and what I will tell you guys is, in fact, the most sound. You're gonna do this, you're going forward, and you're set up for success. No situational things here. You're set up for success. Anyways, the 40 gallon, you're looking at 35 females. Could you start with 20? You could. You could, it's totally possible. Could you start with 15? You could, it's totally possible. But that being said, too, then that's going to require a lot more work on the next topic, and that is temperament. Now, temperament is something that you never see very serious here. You never see a seller who ever talks about temperament, yet that's the most important aspect besides numbers per water and floor space that you could possibly think of. Fish is not a fish. A beta is not a beta. They are all different, and that's actually why I really enjoy them. I enjoy them because they are highly intelligent and complex little beings, and they are very much like us, and that's very important to think and kind of acknowledge. Like I talked about before, building a false top. So if you have someone or a way to get girls who are all bottoms, then like temperament wise, that's fine. Then you could start with 15. You could do whatever. But keep in mind, as they're in there, they're going to want to start to adjust towards having a hierarchy in there. That's how they function. That's how they interact. So then you're going to have to make sure that you're never overstepping your top, because if you do, it causes an avalanche effect. And what happens there is your top already is going to get mad, going to fail, and then this is another thing people always mess up on, even with tanks that are the correct number already, just as a whole. They just get it all and they put it all in there and they're all ready to go. And what happens is people have this urge to remove betas because they're like, oh, I saw some bickering. Oh no, I gotta go there. And then what they just do? They made it worse. Another thing is if you do actually have a true dominant and you're just buying from willy-nilly sellers and stuff like that never tell you anything about it. Now let's say you have one and your tank was pretty copacetic for a little bit, and then all of a sudden you're starting to see death. Well, it doesn't mean that your alpha is actually like killing other fish. As a matter of fact, oftentimes is an indicator that someone's trying to climb and they get shot down and they lose and they get what? They get upset. And so what happens is they'll go back on the smaller ones and take out their aggressions and they'll kill them. And so that is what ends up happening. So, all this stuff is things and so what they do is they'll remove the alpha. Then they'll allow everything to shift over again, and sometimes it doesn't click correctly, and what happens is everything just starts going to chaos. These are all things that are very important to keep in mind. Now, like I said before in the previous, I specialize in sorority. I really love sorority. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I got news for you. I don't have to remove fish, neither do any of them. That's just not how it works. It's understand what's going to happen, why, and preventing it. And then that's where your success comes from. So anyways, it's just, you gotta have someone who's actually gonna discuss the temperaments. You cannot just go out and find 10 girls and be like, I don't care, that's just an example number here. And be like, okay, now I'm gonna throw them all in there and I'm just gonna have a lot of hiding spots and I'm gonna have great success. That's not true. That's not true. And that's why you see so many horror stories on all this stuff. It's nonstop. You have people who make it into this huge beast that it's not. It's really not. How about find a sound seller? How about give them the proper situations? How about not give them too much water volume per fish? How about not doing, you can't have the decor all around the sides and the back and the middle open. That does what? It enables them to go to the middle and see everything, or even the sides and see everything. It fights you on what you should be doing. So I'll get into that in a little bit. But anyways, what I do and how I actually sell them for myself is I never, ever sell true dominant females. To me, it's like the dog that must be put down. because of my experience, even with breedings and stuff like that, if it's a breeding that I myself am doing, then fine, that's okay. Then I know that I know how to manage that. I know what I'm doing with this because I have so much experience in it, and that's fine. I also have news for you guys. I've actually only ever had one death in all of my breedings, in all of my, like, so that is kind of just some little whatever there. Yeah, so, you know, just on the website, the things that you will see me posting, they are females that are going to be universally good, and if by chance it's one that is slightly higher, you know, energy / temperament, but not terrible, that's going to be a breeding girl, and I will actually put that on there. So the ones that are labeled as that is not something that you want to go and plop in. Could you? You could, but that's going to require you to message me and ask me who actually will go with them. And yes, I'm extreme. Anyone who actually already knows me knows that I can just sit there and, like, finished. I've had one tank that took me like hours and hours to sit there and get the chemistry right, but that was just me geeking out trying to make something work that didn't actually, that shouldn't have worked, but I was really trying to get it down, and then I was, so anyways, other than that though, no, I can pretty much go, you know, because I'm highly observant of them, body language, you name it. And so for me, I'm able to just go this, that. Perfect chemistry right off the bat. There you go. Put them in the right situation, you're good. Forget about it. Enjoy your betas. Happiness. And that is kind of what that is. So, you know, can you take a breeding girl and put them, you know, with the other ones? You can, but it's going to require a lot of work from me. And as far as just messaging you back and forth and stuff like that. Unless if you're like, hey, just shoot me what you think is good, here's the colors or whatever, or if you're way into betas, here's the types that I like, and then I can be like, okay, got it, finished. That would be pretty plush. But I want to really just advise you guys though on, realistically, if you're going to be doing sororities, I want you guys to stay clear of the ones that I do indicate for breeding. Are the ones not labeled for breeding good for breeding? Absolutely. Yes. They are all good for breeding. I work with very sound genetics, very sound line. Like, I don't support mixed mutt genetics, so it's about refine. And so, you know, there's that aspect. Okay, so enough of that. Let's get into, and I'm not doing a beta care video here, so we're really sticking to sorority. I'm not going to get into temps, all that stuff. I'm just going to get into. So let's look at decor. What realistically should you guys be doing, and what should you be paying attention to, and stuff like that? Is hardscape actually a good thing for in a beta tank? And the answer is no, it's not. They are too smart to just have a rock, and they also, it can even aggravate them, honestly. You don't want, I've tested this, you don't want solid objects in there. And the reason for this is, like I said, they're not dumb. They're gonna be like, oh, it's a log, I'm gonna go around it. Or, oh, it's a rock, I'm gonna go around it. Like, oh, it's this. And it almost becomes like a game to them, because they will be like, yeah, no, I gotcha. And then that's what it becomes. And that excites them. And so what you're doing is you're actually enabling a game. And they love to play games. And I'm saying this with complete confidence. Maybe you don't observe it, but that is in fact what they will do over time, especially if you, like, I mean, if you have a really playful group of girls, like, they can be as cute as hell, and then all of a sudden, next minute, if you give them the right situation, it will become a chase game, and things can just kind of barrel roll from there. You need to avoid this. This is a natural behavior for betas, period. They love interaction. They love stimulation, which is a big one here. But you need to give them the proper thing. So hardscape, no. That is not anything you should be entertaining. Plants, let's go over this one. So plants are they can be great. They can be great. I'm going to make a beta care video on that one for live versus fake. So we're going to stay out of that. So let's just look at plants as like fake or real. They're great. They're great. Like as a whole, fake, real, they're great. But what you do not want to do, you don't want to put them around the sides and the back only. You can put them around the sides and the back and have them in the middle too, but keep in mind the middle is actually the most important part because it actually blocks everything. And if it's something they can swim through, it's not as engaging to them as far as like invoking any kind of negative reactions at all. Because I think that it's just because they're more comfortable with it and they're more like, oh, I'm just swimming through this. I don't even care. It can be fake plants, it can be grass. Whatever it is. And so that's something to kind of keep in mind. You want the center built up. If you don't like tanks with the center built up, then Bettas legitimately isn't for you. Or you shouldn't do Sorority. And that's okay. Sorority is not for everyone. You need to love them for what they are and what they need, not for what you want them to be. That is not a thing. You want the proper response, you don't want a bunch of deaths, and you want happiness and your own enjoyment, then you need to follow what they need and want, not what you want and need. Like, that doesn't work. So something very important to keep in mind for sorority is you need to actually want and love sorority for sorority, not for, I really love planting tanks and that's going to be my number one thing and I'm going to do this and that and this and that. That just doesn't work. And it won't. Even if it works for a split second, maybe 6 months later, maybe even 1 month later, like honestly, like it could even be right away. Like it won't work. You're going to see spokes flying off all over the place. It doesn't work. So love Bettas for what they are and what they need, but you want the center built up. And I'm telling you, when you have your sororities properly built and everything else, the enjoyment factor is so high, and they have such sweet personalities, and they don't just want to interact with each other, they want to interact with you. And the more you get closer to proper numbers too, for whatever size body of water you have and height, and the more they will actually express themselves. It's like they feel more comforted and they can stop worrying about dumb stuff and start worrying about interacting with each other and you in the proper way, which is in fact purely friendly. They just, okay, everything is good, and then we'll go. So, like I said, center of your guys' tanks or ponds, whatever, because I'm a big pond junkie, but so obviously. So, and that's just these ones, but, the center, that's what you want to be paying attention to. If you got the center covered, you can do whatever you want with the sides and stuff like that. I don't care. Another thing is, which one's best? Is the plants coming up from the bottom best, or the plants coming down from the top best? Well, Bettas actually prefer the top of the water, especially if given the chance. They will always prefer the top, almost. There's some oddball exceptions here. Like I said, they do all have their individual little personalities, but they like the top. What I find is that if you can get plants with very large root structures that come down, you're actually better off because that's what they want. So if you have, maybe I've seen some people with I think it was guppy grass they were using, stuff like that, where it was just big enough and bushy enough and went all the way up to the top and it was just great. Then that's fine too. But, as a whole, plants coming downwards is better than plants coming upwards. So do with that what you want. Keep in mind, if you have the top, the goal here is they're always going to want to go up there, and if they have plenty of stuff to do up there and things coming down from the top, then they're going to always be distracted. They're always, and it also makes it so that if someone's bickering about a spot and it's up top, the other girls can still bicker about the bottom too, in little itty bitty spats, just like us. It doesn't mean something bad, it's just normal. They're not a dumb creature, and I think anything of any kind of intelligence is going to always have little spats every now and then. And when they do, it's appropriate to be, it's necessary to be able to have an immediate outlet or immediate thing that you can do to kind of diffuse the situation. And so that is pretty much what you're looking at here. So I was just talking about something else. What was it for this? Oh, okay. So what happens in the big picture? What happens if you do give them too much space to chase? A lot of people online, a lot of them, are like, oh, you got to give them room to run. You got to give them room to do this. But that is bad, and the reason why none of us do that is because of this. It gives them a triggered response. You're not giving them room to run. You're giving them room to be chased. You're giving them room to, and so while a few people here and there might actually have success with that, that is not a full big picture advisable thing to do. It's really not. It's actually very, very bad. Like the longevity there can be extremely short. Even if it's perfectly copacetic 1 minute, what's going to happen is, because they can single each other out very easily that way and chase instead of having a nice dense population where they can't do that, or even if they did, this is another thing here, the other girls will oftentimes diffuse the situations themselves. So, because they don't actually want the upset, because they're like, whoa, don't bring that over here. Like, you keep that to yourself. Like, and so what that does, like I said, what it does is it stops the reactions from happening. And it's not even that they're bad fish or bad betas, bad girls, whatever. It's that the right situation popped up and their instincts took hold, and that's what they did. And so, like I said, the whole goal for sorority is just understanding the things that are going to make them want to react, that are going to, even the sweetest girls, that are going to make them have these instincts to do something. And when they do, what effect does that have on everyone else? And if your numbers are very low, each time they pass by or someone sees and they do actually, in fact, sometimes develop like straight up friendships. I've observed this. I have actually made videos in the past of like all sorts of this. Then what happens is, anyone who sees that is going to have their whole open to interpretation like reactions of what's happening. And this is why people always have the chaos. It's always why people are afraid of this. It's always why people are like, oh my gosh, this is coming to happen. But it's not the betas. It's you enabled a situation that shouldn't have happened because you were supposed to understand what you were doing. You were supposed to give them the right environment to where they wouldn't want to do these things. This is all, so for instance, with the friendship stuff, if they see, and the cool thing about one of the many relationships that I've seen was 3 girls who just adored this girl who was the very bottom of the food chain, and she actually got into a little spat one time, particularly, and she was getting basically pretty beat. And what happened was those other girls actually just dived in to save her, like straight up, just brutally. And they weren't even tops. They weren't aggressive. They weren't anything. But they were like, "We're gonna save our friend right now. Do it." And they all did, just, and they got it, like. And so, like I said, I mean, but what that also did is all the others got super disheveled, and they were like, oh my gosh, there's such a huge mess in here. What are we doing? What are we doing? And then everyone was nipping and everything else, and so I had to calm them all down and just sit there and try and, calm the energy down. I put my hands in the water. I had to talk to everybody. I had to make sure that the other ones just kind of stayed separate there. I didn't remove anyone, but I needed to actually make sure that everyone knew that it was calm. This is okay. It's calm. It's calm. It's calm. And I've had some of you guys who are probably going to even watch this from Facebook who have actually been like, that never works. You can't stick your hands in the water and talk to them and calm them down and lower your energy so that they can feel what you feel. And they're not that sensitive and intelligent. They can't do that. But sure as all hell, when they try it, and you're actually sincere and just, it's okay. It's okay. What happens? Oh, it worked. Like, almost immediately. It worked. If it's a bad situation where you're balanced because you just went and got a bunch of random girls, even if you did calm them down that way, Are they still going to kick up some other time? The answer is yes, and you may not be there to stop the situation. So like I said, it's really best to have an environment. And with pawns, and I used to have 125s that were just slammed, and then the population would go down, 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 down. And while I can help manage all of your guys' outgoings, I can't always manage all of the girls who I have here, because that's too much chaos. And sometimes you're not putting that batch in that batch, and you're not doing, I used to, and I don't anymore. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But, and no, it's not that they all raised up together and stuff like that. Is not. That is for the birds. That is, they're familiar with each other, yes. That might be a little bit of a thing. But as soon as they actually start reaching maturity, there is absolutely no connection between, I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter how many sources they came from, how many breedings they came from, how many anything. It's totally whacked. That is not a thing. And so, you know, anyways, if this video is a little long, I apologize, but I'm really trying to kind of just get in here with you guys on the concepts that are going to be important for sorority specifically. Another one, your lights. When you're putting your sororities in there, you keep the lights off for 24 hours when you do. And do not turn them off. Do not remove any fish. You're going to see some bickering, potentially, not all the time. Maybe like 40% of the time you will. This is a normal process. This is okay. Even if you see some fin nips, something like that, you leave them in. Do not remove anyone. If they're from me, you are not to remove a single beta. You leave them be. They are perfect how they are. There is no ifs, ands, buts. They are good to go. That is it. Don't take my fish out. Yes, technically then they're yours, but that is my build. So you leave them be. But if you see some kind of spat sometimes, because even outside stimulations can happen, and noises, lights, too much commotion out there, and it just kind of gets them worked up in tanks. It's one of the reasons why I really love ponds, because there is no outside stimulation, plus, other than just the top from you. And so you got complete control over that. But if that does happen, try and just calm them down, you know, talk to them, interact with them. You can feed them if you want, but just feeding them and walking away isn't going to work. But if you just kind of calm them down, turn the lights back off for 24 hours again, this is a good tool for everyone to kind of understand. If there's like, if they're calm and they're, you know, kind of getting pepped up again, then you can put a blanket over as a last resort, and then take the blanket off in the morning or whatever. You shouldn't actually, honestly, ever have to get to this. Like, all these issues that I'm talking about right now, these are like the extremes. They're not like main, you gotta always do this. You don't have to always do this stuff. But I'm just kind of trying to give you guys the tools for if you see things ever down the road, you guys know what to do. And you're like, I remember what that guy told me. I remember what this is said, like what he said about this. I remember, and I don't care if the betas are from me or not, you can use all these tools to apply to all of this stuff. Here's the last part of this video that I'm going to make for you guys. Because as far as only sorority goes, these are the last pieces of information that are actually important. When you are adding betas, so for a 10 gallon as an example, you must, for any gallons, you must start with at least 5. If you have 4, like I said, there can be exceptions here. If you feel like playing the lottery and you lose, that's on you, just like it is if you went and bought a scratch it. You knew better, you did it, you rolled those dice, whatever the outcome is, that's on you. But you must do 5. This enables for each part an allotment of the hierarchy that they want to exist. That's why you always see the professional people talk about 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Some 6, very rare, but 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. That is for a reason. And so, you know, so for a 10 gallon, you want to start with 5. Or you can just jump to 7. Even better. The least tinkering you do, the better you're always going to be. So, 5. Later down the road, sooner than later is better, you can do 2 more. Or also, if you know and trust your seller or some, you know, and you have that kind of relationship, if you are buying betas from someone who does not understand the temperaments of the girls, you need to not buy them. You need to stay away. If they don't care about the temperament of the girls, you need to stay away. If they don't acknowledge it when you bring it up and you ask them, stay clear. But if you do, and you have 5, can you add 4? Yes. If you know that that person is going to be able to decipher for you, these are all very mellow. They will not react. Fine, do it. You can add those girls in your last shot. For a 20 long, what should you be starting with? Well, I mean, ideally you would start with 10, or just, like I said, it's always best to just bam, all one shot, and I walk away. But let's just say, like, 10's a good, start with 10, build up to 15, 17. Can you go higher? This is all on an individual basis. It really depends on the build and how they all interact and everything else, and then how it all settles when they're creating a hierarchy and just kind of getting to know each other, everything else. Or even if they all came from the same place, being in a different environment is going to change the outcome a little bit, just on how they actually finalize and settle, because oftentimes there was actually a bunch of other girls even with those girls, and so these are kind of something that you need to keep in mind there too. So you can take those numbers and kind of escalate it however you want. I already kind of touched base on everything else, so I feel like this video is pretty conclusive with this, and I feel sound on all of the points that I touched base on for this with you guys. That's pretty much it. These are the bread and butter of what you need to be paying attention to for sorority. If the video is a little bit messy, I'm sorry. I'm not really actually good with these videos, but I just wanted to actually, I never have been, but I pour my little heart out into them. I'm trying to get you guys, like I said, this information. This isn't supposed to be some, this is what it's supposed to be. Just me giving you the info and then pretty much whatever. And so, yeah. One last thing, because people do actually ask me, let's say that I have this pond here, 300 gallons, but I fill it to, because it's about floor space, not water volume, and if you fill this 300 gallon pond full, you're gonna stress the hell out of your girls. Totally not advisable. That is way too much water. For me, about 14 inches max is kind of where I like to see. If you're at 18, you're honestly it's verging, it's doable, and it can be okay. You're gonna still be fine. You're still better off going lower, but you can. So that's like 40 gallon kind of size-ish right in there. You can do it and it's perfectly fine, but don't. If you're going higher than that, and this is the thing. Oftentimes the shipments and stuff that I get to, they have like Dumbos and stuff like that. I'm not going to advise that. Like, you need to stay shallower. So in the big picture here, anyway, so let's say that I have like 14 inches of water in this 300 gallon pond. How many females am I actually going to be putting in there? 200 or so. 200 or so. I can even put 300 in there. No joke. 300 in there. This one right here is a grow out for one of my sets I'm growing out of 2 pairings, and there's 200 plus fry easy in here that are 1.5 inches, all doing excellent here, everything else, and the water volume that this is filled up to is actually only 75 gallons, roughly, maybe 80 tops. It's about floor space. So, like I said, numbers are pretty important, even when there's a bunch of males in there too that are very obvious males, and they're doing absolutely fine. So, a lot of you guys ask me, but what I was saying is it's all about what floor space you have and, your observance, stuff like that. I don't recommend someone for like a hobby aspect chase what I do. That's not advisable. So like I said, I'm gonna say that right now. Don't try and do, like, you can, but just, especially if it's like, betas that you all watched and observed from the very beginning, like, that's cool too, that's fine, do whatever you want. I'm just saying, don't go and be like, oh, I have this smaller pond and I'm gonna slam it full of these things just willy-nilly. If you're asked, I can help you do it. It's very enjoyable, but as a whole, if you're going and just buying random females, like, don't try and recreate what it is that we're doing. necessarily, because if you don't know what you're watching for and stuff like that, it can be a little bit sticky, and I don't want to be the one who advised anyone to do something that by all means is a situational thing, or where it relies on their ability to read and understand what's happening and how to correct it very quickly. A lot of the guys overseas do they all do pretty much the same thing that I do. We slam them full, and you always see them all cute and happy and everything else, and they're all just, perfectly fine and all of that stuff, and that's why. I don't want to hear any of this, oh, you're so cruel, you're over cramming them and doing this. Get out of here. Like, go back to wherever the hell you came from. Like, I don't care. Like, yeah, that's great. You're a fish murderer, so whatever. Just, you stay over there, I'll stay over here, and I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Just like they're gonna do what they're gonna do. They're not in the Stone Ages. They're actually doing things the most effective and precise way you can possibly do it. I've advanced on some, a lot of things that I see and have been told that even my guys do all the time. And there's some things from breeder to breeder who also kind of differ, and that's okay, because we all have the system, and the basics of it is all the same. The core of what we're doing is all the same. Anyways, I'm going to end this video. I hope you guys really enjoy sorority. I love it to death. And yes, it is a very safe thing to do. If you follow the structure, don't follow it halfway. That never works. In science, you can't follow an experiment halfway and be like, I'm going to get results. So follow the system and everything will be fun. That's pretty much it. I love sorority. They stole my hearts from the very beginning. I honestly wasn't actually even planning, when I dove into these things, to specialize in sorority. I thought that it was all about the males. And I actually lost interest in that pretty darn fast. But anyways, I hope you guys all have a good day, and I hope that you guys actually also enjoyed this video, even if it's a little bit boring from everything else. This is about the information and stuff like that, and I hope you guys got a lot out of it. This is, in fact, a one-shot video. Every important little aspect that would be, for specifically sorority has been touched base on in here. So yeah, you guys got it right now. And then the beta care video will have every little other aspect in it that would be important for, understanding everything that I didn't touch base on in this, in this video. Because I'm trying to keep them very segmented out, not blurred all over the place and things like that. That way I can keep it precise. You guys can look this stuff up and you can see exactly what you need to see and when. So, you're like, I got 45 minutes or I got 30 minutes to do this. I need to look up this really quick. Look up. Here it is. I got it. Sweet. Walk away. Anyways, like I said, I hope you guys have a good day, and I'm just going to keep doing my best for these things. I'm not a professional YouTuber. That's not even the goal here. So I hope you guys, like I said, the information, I hope that you guys really enjoy. All right.